Unit 1, Lesson 6, Similar Figures, Part 2. I can describe how the area of a scaled copy is related to the area of the original figure and the scale factor that was used. So that's what we did in Part 1. Part 2 is I can find the missing length of a figure if there are two similar figures. So this is the part where it's kind of an add-on. So I have my two figures and I am looking for the missing value. They're telling me already that these are similar figures, so I don't really have to think about that. I know that these are similar figures. I have to match up the right sizes and figure out what scale factor they're using. So I am matching this side and this side because those are our two shortest sides. So I'm going to be using a table just like we did when we talked about ratios and proportions in 6th grade. So my short side is 12. I have to figure out how to get it to 16. So I'm going to have my calculator handy and I'm going to use my phone, but you can use whatever. I know that I want to get to 1 because if I can get to 1, that makes it easier. So I know that I need to relabel mine. Yeah, I'm right. So I'm going to divide by 12. So I need to think, okay, what is the long side version? So that's going to be 18. So if I have 18 on this side, I'm also going to divide it by 12. So I'm going to take my calculator, and I'm not going to want to clear out what I do because I'm going to have a lot of fractions today, and I don't want to clear it. So I'm going to put 18 in my calculator and divide it by 12. So I get 1.5, and I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to do anything to it. Now I have to think, what am I going to do to get from 1 to 16? I'm going to multiply by 16. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Multiply by 16. So I'm going to times by 16. And I get 24. So the missing length is 24. If I needed some help starting off my table, I could slide this away and it sets me up with another table. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, is that you can slide it away to get some help. Okay, same thing again. The distance between two cities is 325 miles. If the scale on the map reads 1 inch equals 50 miles, what is the distance? So I have inches and I have miles. I know that my scale is 1 inch equals 50 miles. I want to get 325 miles. Well, I think I should probably get to 1 mile and figure out what that's going to be first. So to get from 50 to 1, I'm going to divide by 50. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to divide by 50. So in my calculator, again, I don't want to clear anything out. So I've got 1 divided by 50. Order matters. So I get 0.02. Now I want to get to 325 miles. So it's going to go here. So I'm going to multiply by 325. So I'm going to multiply this side by 325. And I get 6.5. So that's my unit of measure. So it's going to be 6.5 inches. Okay. Now I'm doing the same thing, but this is a shape inside a shape. And these were the hardest when I taught 7th grade many moons ago. This was the hardest. So I'm going to just draw a line around it. So I want to find my corresponding sides. So I know that 6 goes with 9. I know that because those are the same side of the similar triangles. So I'm going to look at the side versus the bottom of the triangle. That's just important to kind of keep your stuff organized. So I've got 6. And I want to get to 9. So I'm going to do that. I know that my other value is 8. So I'm going to put that there because these two correspond. If I put it up here, it's going to mean that 6 corresponds with 8, and that's not true because the purple triangle shows that 6 and x go together. Okay, so 6 divided by 6 is 1, and then I'm going to multiply by 9. So now I've kind of got to work backwards, which seems odd. So if going down was multiplying by 9, going up is going to be dividing by 9. So I'm going to use my calculator, and remember, you don't want to clear anything out. So 8 divided by 9 in my calculator is 0.8 repeating. It's going to show in your calculator like 0.889, but that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, and then it says if I divided by 6, I'm going to want to multiply by 6. Okay, because I'm doing the opposite. I'm going the opposite direction. So without clearing anything, I'm going to multiply by 6. And I get 5.3 repeating, or I could say 5 1/3. Either way, it's going to work. So you kind of have to think what goes together. So I'm just going to take a second. I'm going to switch colors. So I know the 8 and the 9 go together because they're on the bigger triangle. The 8 and the 9 are on the bigger triangle. The 6 and the x are on the smaller. So when I make my table, I have to make sure they correspond somehow. All right, here we go again. A triangle inside a triangle. So I'm going to draw, and I'm going to find my corresponding sides. So I know that 4 corresponds with 7. So I'm going to say I'm doing the bottom, and then I'm doing the side. So I know that I have 4. I want to figure out 1, and then I'll figure out 7. So then my corresponding side, so my 5's going to go here because that's on the smaller triangle. That's on the purple triangle. My x is going to be here because that's on the bigger triangle. So I've kind of got to match everything up. So now I'm going to figure out what did I do to each side to get my answer. So I divide by 4. So I'll divide this side by 4. So I get 1.25. Then I have to multiply by 7. So I'm going to multiply this side by 7. I can't do that one in my head, so I'm going to use my calculator. So I have 1.25 times 7, and I get 8.75. So that's what x is going to equal. Okay? The next one, I have 2 triangles again. I know I have my smaller, and then I have a larger one. So I'm going to match up the sides and the bottom. So I have side and I have bottom. So I know that 8 goes with 12. So I'm going to go 8. I want to find what it is for 1, and then I'm going to go to 12. Then on the bottom side, I know the 8 and the 9 go together because they're in the pink triangle. So the 12 and the x go together. So now I'm just going to think, what do I do to get to my sides? So I divide by 8. So I'll divide this side by 8. So in my calculator, remember, you don't want to clear things or you're going to get mixed up. So 9 divided by 8 in that order. I get 1.125. Then I have to think, what do I do to 1 to get to 12? I'm going to multiply by 12. Multiply this side by 12. And I get 13.5. Okay, so before we get too far, I want you to think about your answers. So when you're looking at your triangle, if you know this side is 12 and it looks roughly to be about the same length, you want to make sure that your numbers make sense. That's really, really important that your numbers make sense. Okay, So now I've got my scale drawing. I'm only going to compare two sides. I have to use the side with the X that corresponds. And I'm also going to use these two sides. I'm going to mark these out. I could use them if I wanted to. I'm just choosing not to use them. Okay, so I'm going to match the side and the bottom. So I know that I have a 24. I know, well, hang on. I want to start with the one I have all the information on. So that would be the smaller one. So I have 15. I want to get to 1. And then I'm going to go to 25. So if I'm matching my corresponding sides, I know hang on, guys. $24. And then if I'm matching my corresponding sides, I know across the bottom, this is going to be 25, and this is going to be where the X goes, because I want to match them up, because these two match and these two match, so they need to match in my table. So I'm going to divide by 15, and then I'm going to multiply by 24. So I'm going to divide this side by 15. So I'm going to use my calculator. Remember, don't clear your calculator between these, because it's just going to get you mixed up. You want to use your calculator to your advantage. So 25 divided by 15, and I get 1.6 repeating. Or it's going to say 1.666666667. Okay, so then I'm going to multiply by 24. So times 24. And I get 40. It's funny how it had a decimal here and then it works out to be 40. So X equals 40 in this case. So if you look at the difference between 15 and 24 or 25, it's a pretty big difference. It's the same thing here, but remember you're using scale factor, so you're thinking about multiplication. It's not going to be an addition like that 15 plus 10 is 25. You wouldn't add. All right, we're back to the ones that are inside of each other. So I'm going to trace out my one that's inside. So I'm going to do my bottom. Then I'm going to do my side. So I'm going to match up. The 7.5 goes with the 12. So I want to figure out 1 and then 12. So I'm going to divide by 7.5. So I know the 7.5 goes with the 6 because they're both in the red triangle, and the X goes with the 12. So I'm going to divide this side by 7.5. So in my calculator, I'm doing 6 divided by 7.5. And I get 8/10. Remember, you don't want to clear your calculator. So then I'm going to multiply by 12. I'm going to multiply this side by 12. And I get 9.6. And that's my value for X. So I just keep using the table to come up with equivalent ratios. And they don't look equivalent because we're using decimals and we're using fractions, and that makes it harder. But they are equivalent. So now, same thing. This time I'm going to call this the top. And the side. Now this one's a little bit tricky because I know I have this blue triangle, but then it doesn't give me the whole side length. It says 25 and 35. So I'm going to have to add 25 plus 35 to get a total of 60 as my full side length. So that's important to notice. Okay, so I'm going to go from 25 to 1 to 60, which means that so the blue triangle matches with 12, and then I have my X. So I'm dividing by 25. So I'll divide this side by 25. So as long as you have the right things matched up, you're okay. It's when you don't have the right things matched up. So you want to make sure that the triangle parts match. So 12 divided by 25 is 0.48. Remember, you don't want to clear anything. Okay, and I know that I matched my right parts because this is the smaller triangle, and then I have my larger triangle, and they match. Okay, that's just really important that you notice that. Okay, so now I would multiply by 60. So I'm going to multiply this side by 60. And I get 28.8. So my x would be 28.8, which is about half when you think about it. 12 is about half of 25. 28.8 is about half of 60. So it's kind of important to think about. We only have 3 more. So now I'm doing the same thing again. I'm going to look at my triangle. So I'm going to do side and then bottom. Notice that I keep labeling it. I label it so that I can keep myself organized. So my side, so this is another tricky one because they don't give us the full side length. So 25 plus 10 is going to be 35 and x. So that's kind of important to think about. So when I go to put it in my table, I have 25, I'm going to go to 1, and then I'm going to go to 35. That 10 is just extra information at this point because I had to add them together to get the full side length. So I also know that I'm going to match 30 because they're both touching the red triangle, and I know this one's going to be x. So I divide by 25. Remember, you don't want to clear your calculator. So 30 divided by 25, I get 1.2. Then I'm going to go times 35 times 35. And I get 42 as my answer. So when you think about it, 25, 35, 30, 42, that makes sense. 2 more. Okay, same thing again. But this time I'm looking at the 2 sides of my triangle. So I know I have to match the right stuff. And then I'm going to do my smaller one. So we're going to call one side the top and one side the side. It doesn't matter how you do it. It really doesn't. It's just so, it's strategy so that you know what you did. Okay, I don't want to start with the top because that's where the X is. So I'm going to start with the side. So I'm going from 5 and then to 1 and then to 8. And then I'm going to match that by putting the X here because they go together because they're both in the maroon. And then 10 is going to go over here because it matches the purple triangle. So now I have to think, what did I do? So I divide by 5 and then I'm going to multiply by 8. Now this one is just like one that we had several questions ago. We have to work backwards because the X is at the top. So instead of multiplying by 8, because I'm going the opposite direction, I'm going to divide by 8. Because when you change the direction of your arrow, it changes the operation. So 10 divided by 8 is going to give me 1.25. Then, because I divided by 5, I'm going to multiply by 5. And I get 6.25. So my X is going to be 6.25. All right, and then my last one that I have to do is again a triangle and another triangle. You can guarantee this is going to be on your test. That's why we're doing so many of them. So I'm going to match up my triangles. So I'm going to put on my labels. So I'm going to do side and bottom. Remember, it really doesn't matter as long as you know what you're doing. And you can always slide these away and get the support from the table. But remember, on the test, I'm not going to have the tables there for you. So if I'm matching it up, I'm going from 6 to 1 to 11 because the 6 and the 11 go together. And then I know I have 8 because they're both in the purple triangle and my X is there. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. 8 divided by 6. I'm going to get a crazy number, and that's okay. Just leave it in your calculator. So 8 divided by 6. I get 1.333. So it's repeating. So then I have to get to 11, so I'm going to multiply by 11. Multiply this side by 11. And I get 14.67 or 14.6 repeating or 14 2/3. It doesn't matter how you do it, but that's going to be your answer. All right, your cool down looks just like the other ones we've done today. You can slide You can slide this away for extra help. To support it while you're doing your cool down. That's fine with me because because that's part of the lesson today. I also have an answer bank, so if you want to knock out your answers as you go, that's fine. I know several of you are going to need extra help today, and that's just fine. So think about the level of help you need. Do you just need more practice with this? Do you need to hear, well, Mr. Morgan doesn't have a video for this one, so I should really cross him out because this is a supplemental lesson. So let's just cross that one out. You can't hear somebody else do it. Okay, if you need to talk it through with somebody else, definitely set up with your study buddy. And then I need a small group lesson, or you need more problems like this, or you need to sit down and really slow the process down and kind of ask questions as you go, you're going to email me specifically what you need. So do you need help setting up the tables? Do you need help using the tables? That way I can make sure that my small group lesson targets what you need and you're not sitting through a lesson you don't. Make sure you upload your Keynote as a PDF and you do your cool down in Canvas. Remember, the question is the picture is here, but I need you to do the cool down on Canvas.